Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Capstone Prep 3 project. So basically, this is the project that we will go through in the Capstone stage. Okay. So we already have the recording available for Capstone 1 and Capstone 2. Today, we are going to cover the Capstone Project 3. And this Capstone Project 3 covers all the BA concepts that are not covered under the waterfall and under the agile, guys. Okay, so these are certain generic concepts which are not a part of the waterfall and not a part of the agile. Clear? So having said that, here there is no case study given like for all the questions. However, there are around 38 questions that a student has to answer, and this presentation would give you a very fair understanding as to how to answer the Capstone Prep 3. Okay, and please note that this recording would be available in the library section of the portal. You can go and listen to it whenever you find it comfortable. Okay, guys. So having said that, let's start off with the first question. So guys, the first question talks about a scenario where a customer can make a payment either by card or by wallet or by cash or by net banking. Okay, so basically here the customer can make a payment by multiple options. However, you need to draw a use case diagram. So that's the first question here, guys, where you need to draw a use case diagram. And if you look at this scenario, I have used MS Visio here to draw this diagram. And if you look at it, the system boundary is the payment application and the primary actor is the customer, wherein I have said that the payment has been initiated. Then you will view the payment options, and you can either pay through cash, through card, through wallet, and through net banking. And please note here, the relationship is neither include nor extend. This is generalization, because cash is a kind of a payment, wallet is a kind of a payment, and net banking is a kind of a payment. So then they do not come under any other relationship. And please note there is a small typo mistake here, guys. It has to be the card. By mistake, it is still showing cash. Don't worry, it is cash, card, wallet, and net banking. And all of this is connected and supported by a server or by a bank, guys. Okay, so that is how you need to draw the first use case diagram. Okay, so this next question is you have to derive the boundary classes, the controller classes, and the entity classes. Please note, guys, these are the classes and this is the topic that you need to learn from your MVC architecture and object oriented approach topic. So the second question says that you need to derive these classes using the above mentioned example only. So here I have divided them into multiple classes like boundary classes, controller classes, and the entity classes. So here boundary classes we have payment option boundary class, card payment boundary class, wallet payment boundary class, then you have cash payment boundary class, and then you have net banking payment boundary class. So to understand what are these boundary classes, you might have to go through the topic again. So to understand this classes, okay, first you need to understand their guidelines. So guys, these classes are derived exclusively from the use case diagram. Okay, if you remember, all the actors would become the entity class. Okay, and all the use cases can become the boundary class, and the actor and the use case relationship where there is no third party involved becomes a controller class, guys. Okay, so this way I have divided the boundary classes, controller classes, and the entity classes, guys. Okay, now the third question is you need to place them in the three-tier architecture. So guys, because I could not create the three-tier architecture like what we show in the workshop, I have just taken an Excel sheet and prepared this. So guys, here we have the first layer, that is application layer or the user layer. Then you have the business logic layer, and then you have the data layer. Okay, so what I have done is I have distributed these into the multiple classes, guys. So please make sure you also go through the topic once again to understand these three-tier architecture and how to place them again. We also have these guidelines, guys, which will come where. Okay, so all the entity classes will come under data layer, all the boundary classes will come under application layer, and all the controller classes would come under the business logic layer, guys. Okay, so please go through the topic to understand and answer this properly. Clear? This is a very unique question, that is where most of the people have doubts. So guys, basically the fourth question says that you need to explain the domain model for the customer making payment through net banking. So here they have only taken one scenario where the customer will make payment through net banking. Okay, so basically what do you mean by the domain model? So guys, this domain model is very similar to what we see in the entity relationship diagram. Basically, what we are doing is we're trying to connect the multiple tables and the components together, and that relationship is called as your domain model. So here the explanation is that you need to create this diagram and explain to the mentor how they're all connected. Like for example, if you look at my scenario, this customer is connected to the bank, which is why he's able to make the payment through net banking. Customer is also connected to the payment, right? Because he should make the payment. Now, how are you making the payment? Through net banking service, right? Now, the bank is connected to an account because your account is in the bank, right? And you have to authenticate. Here, if you look at it, authentication, there are from both the sides. So basically, the bank has to authenticate, even the customer also has to authenticate. When all of this happen, that is when the transaction will happen, guys. So the relationship between the multiple tables that I have created, that explanation is called as domain model. Okay, guys, I'm again repeating. Basically, what is a domain model? A domain model is a visual representation connecting the relationships between different components, tables, and entities in the database. Okay, so here they have given you an example to explain this to the concerned mentors. Okay, now the next question is you need to draw a sequence diagram. So guys, again I have used MS Visio to create the sequence diagram. It's very simple. Here you have to make the payment by the customer through net banking. So I have customer object, net banking, and then I have the bank. So the customer will initiate the payment request. So this net banking server will authenticate the customer details, will validate the payment details, will deduct the amount from the bank, and it will process. All of this is connecting to the bank. All of this is the data is flowing to the bank. So the net banking server is asking the bank to authenticate, is asking the bank to validate, is asking the amount to be deducted. Okay, the process payment and everything. And then once everything has been confirmed, then the bank will give some information, guys, and then that will be received from the net banking server to the customer. So basically a sequence diagram talks about how the data is flowing sequentially in a more orderly manner. That is called as a sequence diagram, guys. Okay, now the next question here is conceptual model again. So guys, here in this scenario, we are not expecting you to create another diagram. Here we only want you to explain the conceptual model for the same scenario that is given above, that is customer making payment through net banking. Again, so what is a conceptual model? Guys, please note, conceptual model is very similar to the domain model. Okay, so here the conceptual model also talks about the relationship between the payment, the customer, and the net banking. So we are trying to visualize the overall structure and the flow of the payment process. As we've already created it in the domain model, we are not doing it here again, guys. So basically, conceptual model is nothing but the relationship between the multiple entities of the scenario. If it was a customer making payment through card, then we'll create a diagram or we'll explain it stating what is the relationship between the customer, between the card, between the bank and the service. Okay, that relationship is what we need to explain, and that is called as a conceptual model, guys. Clear? Then we will have to, this is a very basic theory based question, guys. This is not related to that scenario. So you need to say what is MVC architecture, and you need to explain the rules. So guys, as we all know that MVC stands for Model View Controller. So basically, in order to understand the classes and also understand the relationships that happens at the back end, we should understand the MVC architecture. And please note, as a business analyst, it is not our core responsibility to do all of this. We are learning this just for the sake of your theory and theoretical understanding, guys. So there are certain MVC rules that you need to understand and remember. Like if you look at it, combination of one actor and a use case. Okay, and then you have is one boundary class, combination of two actors and the use case is two boundary classes, combination of three actors and a use case is three, and so on and so forth. And every use case is a controller class, and every actor is an entity class, guys. Clear so far? Okay, now the next question is your explain BA contributions in a project. So guys, for this answer, please refer to page number 85 of your workbook. Please refer to page number 85 of your workbook, because there you have the answer clearly mentioned, guys, where there is a tabular format where it says the role of a BA in a pre-project phase, project phase, your analysis phase and everything. So please make sure you go through it, and that is where you need to explain and write that information here, guys. Okay, so because it is already there in the workbook, I have not put it again in the PPT. It's just you need to copy paste that answer here and explain that to the mentor. So here you need to explain all the stages of the waterfall model and what does the BA do here, guys. Okay, so again, I'm telling you, it is in the page number 85 of our workbook. Basically, if you don't find it in that page number, it is basically a table. Okay, table that talks about the BA approach. So if possible, let me show that to you in a minute. Just a minute, guys. I'll just show that how and where you can see that. Okay. Okay. Okay, guys, if you all can see my screen. So basically in this screen, you have to go to page number. One minute. Sorry, guys. So basically, this is where I'm talking about. So this is your role of a BA in the projects. Okay, pre-project phase, your planning and estimation phase, your requirement gathering. So this is what the BA would do. So you have to just copy paste this answer in your answer sheet and explain this to the mentor in a more detailed manner. So that is what is the question all about. Okay, so going back to the PPT again. So guys, the next question is your what is conflict management system, what is conflict management, and you need to explain this Thomas Kilmann technique, and it is worth 3 marks. So guys, basically we all know what is conflict management, handling the conflicts and or disagreements between the organization or individuals or groups is conflict management system. And we also have a Thomas Kilmann technique available there. So you need to explain there basically what is Thomas Kilmann. We have multiple areas, or we have like we have certain boxes there where it will talks about the mindset of the person. So if you can explain that to the mentor, it is decent enough. Okay, now again, what are the reasons for a project failure? Again, this is available in our workbook. It is improper requirement gathering, continuous change in requirements, lack of user involvement, lack of executive support, unrealistic expectation, and improper planning. That is your, just you have to list down the reasons. And please note, this is a generic answer. It is not connected to any case study or anything. Okay. Now, what are the challenges that is faced by a BA in a project? So here, all the changing requirements, stakeholders, lack of stakeholder involvement, unclear project objectives, conflicts and negotiations, communication. So basically, there are many challenges. However, there are few of the challenges that we have listed down, guys. Okay. Now, guys, we have again something called as document naming standards. So make sure that we understand what is a document naming standard. So every document that is connected to the project must have a name in a very consistent manner. No matter how many documents that you have, every document must have a standard naming pattern to it. You cannot name the document as and how you wish, guys. So you should have a proper naming standard. So how do you name a document? You will have a project ID, you will have the document type, the version, and the document number and dot extension. Okay, like for example, project ID is ABC123, document type is BRD, version 1, document dot your extension. It could be docs, it could be whatever. Okay, guys, clear? So when you're explaining this to a mentor, so please make sure you also explain it with an example. Just don't write this and say that this is how the document is named. Please try to explain everything using examples, guys. This is the best way that your document would be approved. Okay. Going forward, what are the do's and don'ts of a business analyst? Again, guys, there is never say no to the client. There is no word called by default. Never imagine anything in terms of GUI. Again, this is we have this in our workbook. It is just you need to copy paste the answer and explain this to the mentor, what a BA should do and what a BA should not do. Okay, guys. So this is how you need to take it forward, guys. Yeah. What is the difference between a package and a subsystem? Please note, what is a package and a subsystem? So basically, package is a more smaller and more focused scope. Subsystems are generally large packages or modules, and basically they depend on the class on a component level. Subsystems are basically on the interfaces between different parts of the system. So here you only have to identify the difference between the package and the subsystem. Clear? Now, what is camel casing? So guys, basically, now what do you mean by camel casing? Camel casing is nothing but a unique way of writing above the code. So guys, basically, camel casing is how the developer will write so that he can understand later. So guys, please, when you're talking about camel casing, when I said a unique way of writing, it is only that they follow certain coding standards. Like for example, the first alphabet is capital, the second alphabet is small, the third capital, the third, fourth is small, the fifth one is capital. So basically, camel casing is nothing but a naming convention, guys, that will help the developers understand and make sure they can talk to the concerned other team members in their language. So camel casing is used exclusively by developers when they're trying to create certain diagrams. This is exclusively used in sequence diagram. Okay, the developer, when we are the developer creates a sequence diagram, he will write there using camel casing, and that they will distribute or they will discuss among the other coders, guys. Clear so far? Now, we need to understand what is a development server. So guys, please understand, whenever a project is happening, the project has certain servers. But what does a server mean? It is a temporary repository of data. So once your project is still in the before deployment, it is still happening right now. We have not deployed your project. When the project has not been deployed, the data will not be saved in the database. The data will be saved in a server, which is very temporary. Once the project is completed, the data will be sent to the database. So while the project is happening, the company has multiple servers. We have something called as a development server, a testing server, a UAT server, and so on and so forth. So this question talks about development server. Basically, development server is where the developers save their work. This is just a platform where the developers and testers use, and they have this dummy environment where they save their work. So once their work is okay, once they feel that their work is good to go, that is when they will send it to the production or the deployment server, which is where the client will have an access to. So basically, it is their scribbling pad. The development team can do anything here. So this is only their small area to test and also recode and debug and stuff like that. Okay, so as a business analyst, we do not have any sort of exclusive rights to the development server. Please note that we do not have any exclusive rights. As a business analyst, we cannot do any additions and add. We cannot do anything. We can only read only. We can only view the points. We have very collaborative access, which means multiple functional people will have it. You as a BA will not just get that access. Multiple functional people will get it only to view the server. And you have very limited configuration, which means you have very limited access to the server. You have only very few permissions to access the server. Again, let's say the server has 10 points in it. You can get access to 1 or 2 points. So you will not get an access to multiple. So you have very limited configuration access. So guys, okay, as a business analyst, you only have read-only access. You have collaborative group access, and you can have very, very limited configuration access. Clear so far? So the next question is, what is data mapping? So guys, basically, what is data mapping? So a business, a database, a database consists of multiple data records, and they consist of multiple data tables. Okay, I'm sure people who understand SQL will know this. So basically, when you're talking about this data mapping, there should be a scenario where you need to map the data from one table to another table. Okay, why is this important? Please understand, we have to gather our result in a very fast manner. We need to get our information or an answer to a very quick manner. So if you do not map the data, it will be very difficult for us to retrieve the data or get the result. Like for example, let's assume I want like 100 records of an item which is pink. Let's assume I go to Amazon and I want 100 items that is pink in color. Now when I just say 100 items of pink in color, the database, this query should go back and check with the database what all items are there in pink. So to do this, it has to connect with multiple data records and multiple tables, okay, and fetch the result back. Because the industry is very competitive, everything should be happening in seconds time. We need to make sure that we get the data as soon as possible, guys. Clear so far? So basically, what is a data mapping? Data mapping is wherein we are connecting multiple data. So guys, just hold on for a second. Okay, so that is called as data mapping. So so basically just for 2 months, you can explain it in a very detailed manner, and also tell them where to use data mapping, who uses data mapping, and what are the main purpose of data mapping is. So this PPT, I gave enough data to understand, information to explain and understand what is data mapping. Clear, guys? Now, what is API? And again, another tricky question. So basically, what is API? So guys, here it talks about what is API and explain a scenario, API integration in one of the scenario that they gave here. The date format is dd-mm-yyyy and it is mm-dd-yyyy. How does this data connect? So guys, to answer this, first understand what is API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Basically, this is nothing but a communication channel between your application and a third-party application. So basically, these two different applications communicate with each other. So that communication channel between these two applications is called as, is done through API. So how does this API integration happen? Okay, so first, to do this, first, what is the process? First and foremost, we need to establish an API communication. So guys, you need to first set up a relationship between your application and the other application to exchange data. So now let's assume my application is E and your application is B. So first I have to connect a relationship between my and your, A to B. Then whenever I'm sending my data to your application, when I'm sending the data to your application, so basically what happens that I have one way of sending it, right? That is dd-mm-yyyy. Okay. Now what happens once the data is communicated or sent to your application, the rules and the protocols inside this communication will rearrange. The data inside this formatting will be rearranged. Okay. Now let's assume I'm sending it in dd-mm-yyyy. The system that is connected through this relationship, through this API, will convert the format, and then it will make sure it will rearrange according to the target format, guys. Okay, according to the target. Like for example, see, in this scenario, when I'm formatting the data, what am I doing? I'm only trying to make sure I send the data in my format, that is dd-mm-yyyy. Okay, so what I'll do, I will take this data and I will send it to you. Now, once I send it to the B application, so second application, then it will rearrange according to my application and keep it there. Okay. Now, when I am receiving the data from that application, the data will be parsed. That is the word, guys. The data will be parsed and it will rearrange according to my format. That is dd-mm-yyyy, and then it will keep it. Now, once the data transfer is happening, then the data will be validated. The validation is checked. The data will be checked, and then the required format would be rearranged. So in simple words, I'll again retell you what I'm trying to explain. Basically, in my application, I have the data. So in my application, the data is dd-mm-yyyy. Okay. Now, what will I do? I will make sure the data is, the connection is first established. Then once the connection is established, I will send the data in this format, to the second party application. Okay. Once through API. So basically, once this is gone to that application, the data will be formatted. And in which format? dd-yyyy. Once the data is formatted, the data is there in the second party application, right? Then the data will be parsed, and while I am receiving the data, that again the data would be rearranged through APIs, and then it would be sent to us. Okay. Once the data is back to my application, I will validate the data. Is it in my format or no? So guys, please know this is a little technical in nature, but please try to understand in a more functional manner how the data is communicating with each other and how this integration is happening. Is clear so far? Okay. Now, what is the difference between brainstorming and JAD sessions? Again, this is a very generic question, guys. So you have to understand what is brainstorming and what are JAD sessions. Okay. Then what is document analysis and why is it a compulsory technique to use in the project? So basically, document analysis to understand the document and to read the documents. This is a part of elicitation technique, and it is very compulsory because it's very important for a BA to understand the existing documentation Also to understand what is the basic current standards they're following and what kind of references they have to go take it forward. Okay. Then in what context will we use reverse engineering? So what is reverse engineering? When you're trying to analyze the existing system and to understand the future system. Okay. So when is it used? When you're trying to understand the legacy system, okay, and you're trying to understand your competitor. So when you, let's assume your competitor already has this product and you have to understand how better can I make my product. In this scenario, reverse engineering is the best solution. Yeah. Then what is the difference between brainstorming and focus groups? It's a very simple question again. It's very theory based question. Okay. Then what is observation technique? Explain both passive and active approaches. So basically observation is to view the person by observe the individual or the processes or the software to understand and to gather data. So what is active? Active observation is where you're asking questions. Passive observation is where you're viewing without asking any questions. Clear? How do we conduct requirements workshop? First, you need to plan and prepare. Then you need to identify the participants and then create an agenda. So basically, when you want to have a workshop, make sure you properly organize it and then conduct the workshop. Okay. Now, in what context this interview technique can be conducted by a BA? So guys, please note, whenever the BA want to conduct an interview technique, it is used to collect information, clarify the requirements, elicit the feedback, and gain insights from stakeholders. There is a continuation of this question, guys. So how many approaches are there? So basically, we have two approaches, structured and unstructured. Structured interview is where you have a predetermined set of questions that you will ask. What is unstructured? Unstructured is where you will ask the question based on the answers. Okay, there's no discussed on, there's no structured questions that we have. We'll just ask the questions based on the other person's way of answering. Okay, guys. Then we also have the next here is explain the difference between open-ended questions and close-ended questions. Guys, basically, what are open-ended questions? Where there is some explanation required. Close-ended question is short questions, yes, no kind of a questions. Okay, guys. So whenever you have any what are open-ended questions, where you need to require narrative, where the participants have the freedom to speak and the information is qualitative. What is close-ended? Close-ended is where you already have a yes-no answer. You can only have to choose from the given options and there is only quantity. Okay. Then what is a questionnaire technique? Where will we use it? So basically, questionnaire is where you have a questions and you give it to the concerned participants to answer from those questions. So whenever you want to gather data about consumer preferences, opinions, and purchasing behavior, where you have huge number of people, there you can take a questionnaire technique. Clear? And how do you sort the requirements? Because please note, guys, sorting the requirements is categorizing the requirements. Okay, so basically you're organizing the requirements based on their importance, relevancy, and feasibility. So here, when you're sorting the requirements, just putting them into different categories. I'm not prioritizing them completely though, but I'm definitely categorizing them as, like, for example, see, I'm building a software application and I can sort the requirements based on the features, based on the phases, based on the importance of the requirement. So like that, I can distribute and categorize the requirements. That is called as sorting the requirements. Okay. Now, what is prioritizing? As we all know, that prioritizing is giving an importance to that requirement based on their urgency. Okay. So guys, prioritizing is not just used in Agile, it is also used in Waterfall. However, there are multiple techniques that we use. One of the technique is Moscow. We all know Moscow. So basically, prioritizing is we're giving importance to those requirements, guys. Clear? What is weekly status reporting? So guys, what is weekly status reporting is basically to give an report on the weekly status of the project. Okay, how do you give the weekly status? First and foremost, you have to understand what are the requirements. You need to make sure how fast you want. Is it, what is the deadline of that? Then you have to have a format. Then you need to communicate the expectations, then provide the guidance, the follow-up. Then you will share, then discuss the reports. So guys, please note that weekly status reporting is nothing but how do we give the status, the weekly status to the concerned stakeholders. So it's very important to give your weekly status. So certain projects have that requirement. So how do we give that weekly status is what is the question here, guys. Yeah? Then what is a minute? So guys, please note MOM or minutes of the meeting document is nothing but, let's assume a meeting happens and what is that you have discussed in the meeting. So here the question says we need to prepare a sample. So I just created one simple template, guys. Okay. So here it says what is the date, when, what is the location, who are the attendees of that meeting, what was the agenda, what, so like for example, I'm just giving a discussion summary. Item 1, this was discussed, and this is a summary of that item. Again, like that, like to have for item 2, again, what was discussed and what is the summary, and what are the action items on that meeting. And we're also discussing for the next meeting. Okay, what is the next, when is the next meeting, and what is the agenda. This could be one of the template of the MON, minutes of the meeting, guys. Clear? Guys, please note this is not a fixed template, that is not a standard template. I've just created this based on my understanding. Okay, if you have a better template, you can definitely use it for your evaluation. Okay. Now, guys, we have a change tracker document. So guys, basically, whenever you have certain changes to the project, you would want to have this change tracker document. Guys, please note, this is one document only. I just, because the PPT was not supporting that one big document, I broke this into 3 different pieces. The first one is this, second is this one, and the third one is this. So it starts off from the change tracker document. You have to insert the version number, insert the date, then what is a change request number, requested by whom, when was it requested, and what is a description of the change request, and what is the impact of the change request. Okay, then you have the implementation. If you're accepting it, if you're approving to the change, then who is the developer who will work on it. Okay, what is a rollback plan, how do we come back to our original plan, and then you have documents update, then you have your approvals, and then you have your references. So basically trying to track the changes in a more detailed manner, guys. That is how we can create a change tracker document. Clear? Then what's the difference between waterfall and agile? So it's a very basic theory based question. So again, I'm talking about the waterfall differences and the agile differences. Clear? Explain brainstorming technique, where to use, because brainstorming is to generate ideas by asking questions in a group. So this is very useful when you want to generate an idea for your project planning and so on and so forth. Okay. Now guys, now we come to this area where these are not a part of your workshop. So please note, now we have come to a scenario where this is not a part of your workshop. So these questions are very generic questions, and these are testing your basic and general knowledge of the domain. Okay, guys. So here, let's assume you say that I'm not a financial person or a banking person. You don't have to be a banking person, guys. You just have to use your basic knowledge to answer these questions. Okay, like for example, what reports does account departments will generate? So let's assume there's a scenario given here, guys, which I did not mention in the PPT. So basically it's for the loan process. So here I want to take a loan as a part of the organization, and what kind of documents will the accounts department generate? So in order to accept or reject a loan, the account department must definitely have a financial statement where it will talk about the financial statements of an organization. Is the organization in a position to give loans to its employees or not? Overall financial statements is what I will calculate. The second report that we can have is a company reserve loan report. So basically every company has a reserve amount aside. Does the company have that reserve amount? If yes, how much is spending, and if no, can I give, or whatever. Okay. Then you have a credit report. Basically, it is nothing but let's assume I want to know a credit report. Can I repay the amount back? Okay. So basically, that's a credit report. Then you have a collateral evaluation. So basically, let's assume I want to take a loan. I'm putting some amount there as a collateral, right? I have to check, is it worth it or not? Okay. What if I'm giving you 15 lakhs ka loan and the collateral that you're presenting is just for 5 lakhs? I'll go loss, right? And then to a debt to income ratio. So basically, it also calculates how much of debt, how much, let's assume you're asking for 15 lakhs and your income is just 1500 rupees a month. You won't be able to repay that debt, right? So that all are your account department reports that are generated, guys. Yeah. So what is the structure of the message communicated from the HR department to the employee in case a loan is rejected? So guys, here it says that thank you so much. So we understand that this is a very disappointing news, that looking at the above considerations here, okay, your loan has been rejected. We're very sorry. So please make sure that, you're a very valuable employee. It's a very basic email. Again, guys, this is a very standard template that I have. You can have any message or email here. It is not like you should create an email just like this. You can create any other structure as well. Clear? Then when the loan is approved, so here the HR team says that your loan has been approved. What's the loan amount? What is the term of the loan? What is the interest rate? And what is the repayment schedule? So this is what is the loan approval notification. Okay. Then I'm just designing a sample report for loan applications received by the accounts department. Guys, here I'm taking an overall applications report. So here I have a company logo on loan application ID, personal loan, house loan, and education loan. I have the name of the applicant, loan amount, and the status. What is the application? For John, this is approved. For Smith, it is still pending, which means there are certain other criteria to look at, and this is rejected for Andrew. Okay, they already gave notes on what basis can we do it. If any have any questions, we can contact the accounts department. Yeah. Then final question is which reporting tools we will use for generating reports. We have many reporting tools, guys, but I have only highlighted the 3 that are very important for us: Excel, Tableau, and Power BI. So here the explanation is just have to explain the answer to the mentor, guys. So that is how you will explain it to the concerned mentors. Clear so far, guys, all of you? Okay. So this is the end of your Capstone Prep 3. If you have any questions on the Capstone Prep 3, please join the doubts clarification session. But before that, please go through the topics, understand, and then you can ask your questions, guys. Okay, thank you so much.